word to your mummy. You know what time it is, so don't go anywhere. It's Cinemassacre's Monster Madness 80s-a-thon. In 1933, King Kong was the champion on top of the Empire State Building, but in 1982, another monster took up residence on top of the Chrysler Building. Q, the winged serpent, is a scaly, dragon-like creature which snatches sunbathers off the rooftops of buildings, sending body parts and blood raining onto the streets. Hysteria spreads over the city while police try to investigate. Meanwhile, a small-time crook discovers the giant nest which contains the beast's egg. This crook is played by Michael Moriarty, who I know as Harry Potter from the first Troll movie.
My name is Harry Potter.
And the main detective is played by David Carradine, recently best known as Bill from Kill Bill. We don't see the monster too often, but thankfully both these actors do a really good job and keep this film watchable. Moriarty's character, Jimmy, is this real sleazeball who wants to capitalize on the monster by selling his knowledge of the serpent's hiding spot for the hefty sum of $1 million. What a jerk. People are getting killed and all he cares about is money. Going back to King Kong again, it kind of reminds me of Carl Denham. All he cared about was money as well. Jimmy's not just an asshole, he's a clever, sneaky asshole. He gets involved with some gang members who are looking for some stolen loot from him. So what does Jimmy do? He tells them that he put the jewelry on the top of the Chrysler Building, which is where the creature lives, so of course they go up there and they get devoured. I love this guy. I mean, I hate him. He's obnoxious, he's a whimpering coward that drinks, beats up his girlfriend, and treats people like garbage. Watching this movie, I really couldn't stand this guy, but then I realized he's the kind of guy that you're really supposed to hate. There's a lot of characters like that. There's the guy in the Star Trek Next Generation episode, Chain of Command, who takes over as captain for a brief period.
We're not on a research mission. Get it done.
And of course there's Biff from Back to the Future.
Hello? Hello?
All these characters you hate for different reasons, but you also love. Something trivial I have to say is that there aren't many monster movies that start with the letter Q. There's the Quatermass films, but that's about all I can think of that's relatively well known. So it had me wondering, why is the monster named Q anyway? Well, it has some history behind it. The ancient Aztecs believed in a half-reptile, half-bird god that they made sacrifices to.
Wouldn't be the first time in history that a monster was mistaken for a god.
Apparently the Aztec priests would tie down some unfortunate soul and rip their beating heart from their chest as an offering to their Mesoamerican serpent god, Quetzalcoatl. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that name properly, and that's why you could just say Q. And here the monster, which actually resembles a pterosaur, has supposedly been summoned to modern-day New York through rituals performed by contemporary Aztec worshippers. Wow, so there's a whole cult tied in with this thing. If they ever decide to remake Q the Winged Serpent, maybe they could do a versus movie, Q versus Q versus Q. Yeah. One nice thing this film has going for it is all the nice helicopter shots filmed above New York City. They should remake it in IMAX. And while the shots of the winged beast are brief, they were at least smart enough to have it appear every 5 or 10 minutes. I hate movies that never show the monster till the very, very end, like the monster of Piedras Blancas. Fuck that movie. It's kind of interesting how none of the detectives seem too surprised that there's a giant reptile monster flying around. Normally in these movies, they never believe that the monster is real until they see it for themselves. That's especially true with vampire flicks.
The strength of the vampire is that people will not believe in him.
Here they treat it almost like it's a regular, everyday, natural disaster. I've said it before, but stop motion is always cool to look at for some reason. Even for the 80s, this seemed a little dated. But it gives the movie a unique charm. The serpent was designed by Randy Cook, and the stop motion was done by David Allen. David Allen's done a lot of effects work on many horror and sci-fi movies. And here's a cool bit of trivia to connect it to King Kong one more time. He animated this awesome Volkswagen commercial from the 1970s and based it on the original King Kong. It's kind of cool to see a stop-motion King Kong in full color like this. The idea of the commercial is that the car was spacey and luxurious with lots of extra room. Never thought I'd see King Kong's car. Wonder if Godzilla had a car. I guess he'd need a giant speedboat to get him to and from Monster Island. Q was directed by Larry Cohen, who brought you films like It's Alive, The Stuff, Maniac Cop, and God Told Me To. I think he did a decent job updating the 50s sci-fi genre for a later audience. And that's what it is, a cliché genre film. A hysterical mob of panicked people, an anti-hero you hate so much you love him, and of course a giant monster that loves tearing people to shreds. What's not to like about this movie? Within the first 10 minutes you see a man skinned alive, a window washer get decapitated, and a naked woman get eaten. The movie's tagline says it all. Q. That's all you'll have time to say before it tears you apart.